Hello and welcome everyone. We have Cassie Graves with us because a huge thing happened just last night. And Cassie and I were up, I don't want to say all night, but we got so many messages from federal employees and from others saying, what the heck is going on? How does this work? I'm panicking. I have a week to decide what the heck. And so Cassie knows federal benefits better than anyone. That's my assessment. Better than anyone I know, and I know a fair amount of people. So Cassie, that's you. And when we got this, Cassie and we've been pulling information together from different sources from the OPM website. We've gotten some emails sent to us from federal employees saying, here's a document that we got. I was just on a webinar and the IRS employee said, we got to go. We have an all agency meeting right now to figure out what's going on. And so things are happening right now, literally right now,
yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. Right now. And, it's so crazy. So just the past, I would say 12 hours from 7 o'clock last night till 7 a.m. It was like, I hardly had any time to sleep. I mean, that's what it felt like, right? Because it was just people were texting and emailing. And of course, I don't work directly with employees. I work with the advisor side and the professionals. And I got so many messages from the professionals that we serve like, hey, did you hear about this? Did you know about this? What's going on with this? How does this change everything? And there's so many questions. And we have to, I think, kind of look at, there's different options for each part of an employee's retirement journey, right? And so it kind of depends, and I know that's your favorite term, on where you are in your journey, and then you can explore what options are there for you. And that's what this is all about. We're going to talk about what does it look like when you're, at that retirement stage? What does it look like when you're in that kind of early, it's possible to retire, should I or shouldn't I kind of thing? What are the consequences to that if I do? And then what happens if I'm not even close to retirement? Obviously, there's only so many options we can get without getting into the weeds of the return to work policy that is also in place. And so we're just exploring, if depending on where you are in your retirement journey, here's your options, right? Mm-hmm. Aside from the returning to work, right? This is assuming that, because that's a whole nother equation, part of the equation, right? If you're not able to return to work, I had an advisor call me and say, hey, this person, they work in Texas. During COVID, they sold, they moved to Florida, and now they don't want to go back. They're not in the retirement, right, not near retirement phase. They still have many years before they're even eligible to retire. What is the best option, right? And so there is a caveat in there that maybe we'll throw in a bonus at the end. We'll see.
I like it. Good. Okay, so let me set the stage here real quickly.
Yeah.
Government came out and said deferred resignation is available, but you have to make up your mind by February 6th. So I'm going to just kind of make it oversimplify things real quickly. Mm-hmm. So now for federal employees, there are mainly three options. They can continue to work, mm-hmm, and work as they always have, right? Forget retirement, forget about this resignation thing. They can continue to work and keep going. The second one is to retire if they are within the parameters of retiring. And
yes.
And then the third is to take this deferred resignation, being basically put on administrative leave until September 30th. Now, with the first option of just staying, there is also a risk that, for example, there's been some talk of getting rid of the Department of Education. So if I work at the Department of Education, I could say, mm-hmm, yeah, I'm going to stay, but I may get laid off anyways because they may get rid of the Department of Education, right? So there's risk
Right.
in every option that there is. Now there are more options than that, but I see. Would you say that those are the kind of the three biggest options that people would choose and be looking at?
Those are the three biggest options, and there might be a benefit to not doing the deferred resignation. Like, they're making it an incentive, right? But that's the caveat I think that we'll be throwing in at the end.
Okay.
Is because, you know, it might be beneficial to some employees to say, hey, we'll just wait till the government forces me out. Right. For a reduction in force or a reorganization or a transfer of function, however they want to categorize it. Right. The almost scary part is that they're throwing out these terms and we're having things redefined within the federal government. And so do we know or think that what is called a discontinued service retirement now and how it's defined may be different later? There's also that risk, right? Like, they are literally redefining things because a deferred resignation, everybody's confused about that terminology because it hasn't been a thing, right?
It's brand new and everyone's like,
it is.
Does it mean this? It doesn't mean this, or something brand new that we've never heard of before.
Exactly. I mean, even just deferred retirement and postponed retirement is confusing enough. Now we're adding another layer of complexity where it's like, hey, this isn't retirement. This is resignation, right?
You're quitting.
Right. You're just leaving government service. So what are the rules on that? Well, first off, in order to be eligible for anything in the government, like a pension or to be able to keep your benefits in retirement or anything like that, you have to be vested in the retirement system, right? And so if you have less than 5 years, you may not even decide to stay and just leave service. That's an option, right? If you do have 5 years, that's what we're going to be talking about. What are your, because now you're vested in this retirement system, right? And you need to know, when do I pull the plug and what happens to my benefits,
right,
if I decide to do that, right? So if you're just simply not vested, you haven't had your time in the federal government, sign up to talk to an advisor about what that situation looks like, because we're going to be constantly educating our professionals about what the different options are for employees at different stages. And we've already been flooded today with calls and emails, and we're putting out information as quickly as possible to people about what everything looks like. Do they have to make the decision quickly? Yes. However, once they make the decision, that deferred resignation doesn't take effect until September 30th. Right? So they have some time to kind of figure it out.
Right.
That's what this is all about. They're saying, hey, you have the option to leave federal service, but we're not kicking you out right away. We're going to give you some time, have paid vacation and all of the stuff to figure out what you want to do for your future. And so could this be the straw that breaks the camel's back on some of those who are considering retirement,
right,
or leaving government service anyway? It's very possible.
Yeah.
Right. But let's be clear. This is for most federal employees, but it is not for Customs and Border Protection. This is not for Postal Service employees, ICE agents, military service members. Like, those all are going to be staying in place. So if you are not any of those kinds of federal employees, then this may be beneficial for you.
Yeah. So basically what you have to do when someone receives this letter or email that says, hey, you can't, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, Cassie, but the whole being able to email all federal employees, that's a whole nother thing going on, because up until this week, the OPM was not able to email all federal employees. And now
Isn't it funny how they just tested that system like last week or the week before?
I know. Anyways, that's a whole other topic that we can get into, but we're not going to. But so if you get this saying, hey, it's okay, you can apply for this. And it's an apply. You can say, yes, I want to do this. You let them know and they have to accept it. It's not an automatic thing. It's an acceptance. Correct?
I mean, look at the first paragraph. Please accept this letter of my formal resignation from employment with my employing agency.
Well, true. Right? Okay, I gotta find it. I gotta find it because it says I need to find it. But it does say somewhere that they have to accept it. And that may be just for the people who think, oh, I'm postal and I'm going to put it in and they're going to reject it then. But I think that pretty much everyone who is eligible for it, who wants it, they'll be accepted. That's the general feel that I get.
That's the general feel. I mean, let's be real. There's a couple of different reasons why they're doing this. Let's not go into that side of things. But if they simply reply and they change the subject to resign, and it asks that they accept the resignation. However, it's assumed that everything will be accepted because obviously this is coming down from
right
such authority.
Right.
So would they not? I don't see anybody not being accepted in this. Right. Unless their position is so valuable, that maybe they have to train somebody.
Yeah, we can't let that person go, right? Maybe they have identified some people that said, we can't lose this person, this person, this person. We've got to keep them because the knowledge in them isn't transferred yet. We've got to keep them.
And that very well could be, for instance, people who are on a phased retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're already on their way out the door. They're just training the next person to take that position. So then I don't know what will happen with that, right? There's nothing in the FAQs from the memo that went out from OPM's director that stated anything about people in a phased retirement.
Right.
It does. That specifically doesn't go into intermittent or that sort of thing. But from what I'm reading in the code and the reference points of the letter that the employees are receiving, anybody in a temporary or intermittent kind of position, disregard this. This obviously isn't for you. You're not paying in the retirement system, most likely. And if you are, it's only for a certain period of time. And so this does not apply to you, right? And so this doesn't necessarily even apply to every federal employee. And that's what I want to be clear on from the beginning. If you
part-time, sorry, it looks like it does say full-time specifically. So I had a question this morning. What about part-time employees? And I said, well, it doesn't say part-time employees. It just says full-time. So I'm assuming part-time are not included in this.
Right.
Yeah.
And to that point, then it might still go, once this is all said and done, then maybe they implement another round for really getting stringent on the, what is it here? The 4 pillars that the federal workforce will be built around once this is done, right? It's actually going to be a merit-based system, and there's 4 different pillars that this will be, referring to. And so right now, no, it doesn't affect part-time employees that it states. However, could I see this being, if you're in a part-time position and you don't meet these 4 pillars, could we then have another look at your employment? That could be a thing.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
but we're not there yet. Let's just focus on what we know, just
Good.
like everything else that we have to do with the government on, getting this stuff figured out. So yeah, right now this is a request for a deferred resignation. What will happen if somebody doesn't, they kind of leave service February 6th, right? Or they aren't working anymore for some of them, and they just simply decide to not leave the federal government until September 30th.
Right.
That's what will be happening. However, I heard from one of my professionals that one of their employees' agencies is not going to honor the being paid for that whole time, right? So there is.
So far we have one agency that won't pay them, another agency that says we will pay you, but you have to come in still. We're not going to actually put you on administrative leave. You have to be there. So agencies are really molding this to whatever they want it to be.
And they have the flexibility to do that, right?
Yeah.
Any presidential executive order, there's a certain level where it's like, okay, this is what we're putting out, but it's subject to certain agency rules or requirements as well. Check with your HR department, right?
Okay.
So the presidential order is kind of just this broad, this is what we're going to do. The agencies then have to incorporate their rules and regulations that apply to them and what they're going to allow or not. And so, yes, it's different for each agency. So even if you get this letter, you're still going to need to check with your HR department to figure out, am I still going to get paid for that service time? Is this really a paid vacation? Right?
Right.
And that's the other thing. We have to look at which parts of that executive order are what's the word I'm looking for? Formidable to the agency, or is it written into law? Like, what does that look like?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, and of course, it's clear as mud because this is all new and it's new terminology, and there's nothing that specifically states that a deferred resignation is this, right?
Right. It hasn't given a definition for what that really means. They've given some FAQs to say this is kind of how it works, but not an official. This is what deferred resignation means. So let me do this. Let me give you some scenarios.
Yeah.
And let's walk through each of these scenarios about what someone may do. So let's say, actually, some of this is scenarios I've heard already from federal employees. All right. For example, one person said today, I was going to retire September 30th anyways, on that same day. What do I do? What are your thoughts, Cassie?
So those are the people that are retiring or within retirement for this year, right? And so they're in that ready to go, I'm leaving now kind of phase. I say plan for retirement, right? Send in the resignation form if you can get paid for that 7-month period and have a paid vacation. Why not?
Yeah, because
right?
because there's kind of an order of precedent here. There's the lower order precedent of the deferred resignation, but the retirement trumps that.
Yes. And so you can submit the paperwork, go on that sabbatical, whether it's paid or not paid, check with your agency, right? But and then just submit your retirement paperwork
for September 30th.
Within that time, say 60 to 90 days of your agency, so that way you're ready to go on September 30th. However, know that other people are probably going to be doing the same thing for the same date.
That's exactly right.
Yes, everybody's going to be retiring on September 30th. And then again, they have to, what happens, right? They need to plan to have retirement delayed even more than the standard 3 to 6 month that we request, because we don't know what the government agencies are going to look like at that time. And is it going to take another 6 to 12 months to finalize your retirement paperwork?
Right.
I mean, and that's already kind of a hot time to retire, right? That
Mm-hmm.
September 30th to the end of the year. And so if you are eligible to retire earlier, maybe a month or two, try and go out a little bit earlier, so at least that begins the process, right?
Right.
And I would say even talk to somebody to figure out what can you do in the meantime to make sure that you're ready to fill out your paperwork and turn in a healthy retirement package to begin with, right? We
Mm-hmm.
need to make sure that deposits or redeposits are made, or at least you know how much to make, and you can make an informed decision on whether or not to make that deposit or redeposit for any amount of time that may be eligible to get credit for more federal service. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's a good point. Maybe some people need to do that. Say you have 4 years of military service and you're considering an early retirement. Maybe you just buy back your military service and then go out on a regular retirement if your years and your age are there, right? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if you're ready for retirement, and even if you're close to it, you should be looking at what are my options this year? When is the best time to make that decision? And what do I need to do to be ready to kick the bucket?
Right. One thing I found this morning is that people are out of their minds. I mean, freaking out a little bit, right? It's an emotional thing,
Yes.
which is this is 100% understand, but we can't make these decisions on an emotional reaction of, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm out of here, or what do I do with this? This is too confusing. I'm just going to do this and go forward. We actually need to make these decisions based on sound numbers, sound thinking,
Yes.
and take the
Yes.
emotion out of it and take a look at, okay, if I do X, what do I get when? Or what do I
Yes.
miss out on? Right.
Mm-hmm.
But
1,000%.
we have to take the
Yeah.
emotion out of it. That if I could say anything out of this whole thing, that would be the number one thing.
I mean, it's an emotional deal, though, so I get it to a
I get
certain
it
point.
too. Yeah.
But you're right. If you're not coming from a basis of knowledge and understanding your federal benefits, how they're impacted, what you can or cannot do to make it the best of the worst situation, then you can't make a decision for the future, period.
Right.
Right? And notice his
Yeah.
decision is a decision, right? And we talk about this all the time, that procrastination, right? The paralysis of analysis. Like, don't get stuck in all of the numbers either. You have to know, though, what that looks like, and how to coordinate with your spouse too if you're married. That's
There
a
you go.
huge point. And so that's why it's important to just get another set of eyes on your information and your numbers, because you know what, if I go and talk to one doctor and they say, oh, your elbow's broken, well, then I go talk to another doctor because I'm like, no, I can still move it, like this doesn't sound right, and another doctor says you tore a tendon. Like, until they give me hardcore facts on what is really going on with my elbow, and like I can see it for myself, I don't know who's right.
Right. Right.
And so that's why it's important, even if you have a financial professional, if they haven't talked to you about your federal benefits and they don't know how to coordinate this information, go to talk to somebody who does, or reach out to the Fed pilot programs and they'll get you in contact with somebody who can help you, because it's important. And here's the other thing I want to mention too before we jump on to the other type of employee is if you are eligible for retirement, maybe within that September to December timeframe, right? You can then delay and just not do the resignation part and delay and just retire, right? You might also qualify for a special exception for the situation to be able to extend to your
Mm-hmm.
retirement date,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
That's true
it
too.
depends.
Yeah.
on your agency. It depends on what they will allow. Maybe you can use some sick leave. I don't know what that will look like and how to coordinate that. Again, I'd have to. It's a case by case basis, is what they're doing with the government and what they will allow or not allow for those types of situations. And again, it's also up to your agency, right? And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of moving parts with this, but that is an option for somebody to still be able to do the deferred resignation and enter into retirement at the same time. So
Okay.
keep that in mind.
I've got a scenario
Yeah.
that I think would be possible. Let's say someone wants to retire this year. They say, you know what, I'm doing the resignation. But then they go in and say, okay, I'm resigning September 30th, but I actually want to retire December 31st. So they get closer to it. And then they come back and say, no, I don't want to. Now just give me 3 months of sick leave or annual leave. Then you push
I
it
guess
out.
I'm confused what you mean by that.
So they take the deferred resignation September 30th, but they know they want to retire at the end of the year anyways.
Oh, I see. And then use their sick leave or annual leave
From
until,
September for the last 3 months, right? I mean, there's so many different things. I don't know that
that's
that's
a
even a good
possibility.
idea, right?
I don't know that that's a good idea either, but and it also depends on what their agency will allow, right? Not everybody's
Yes.
agency will allow you to use like your sick leave like that or whatever. And especially if they're already getting this time paid.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't know about that. But
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it's possible if they're using their leave. I mean, because then they also have to think about, though, if they do that,
Mm-hmm.
yes, they get paid for it now, but what is the consequence in retirement, right? Like if you use your sick
Right.
leave now,
Right.
that you're only getting paid for it one time. You're not continually getting paid for that over the course of your retirement, right? So I would say don't use your sick leave for it, but that's
Right.
just my opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I don't know your situation. That's different. And I also want to be clear, this isn't for disability retirees either. This is
Right.
normal age and service year requirements, right? Disability is still handled as a disability retirement would be. And so this is not, I mean, if you want to go out with a deferred resignation and then file your disability retirement after that, that's a
Sure.
possibility. However, it's still going to follow the normal disability retirement regulations and rules at that time. And again, I would then use this time to prepare everything that you needed for that disability retirement because that's definitely can bugger some things up. And again, also expect there to be an extra delay in that retirement application processing.
Yeah. The delay.
Mm.
That's another thing because most 25% of federal employees retire on December 31st. So if that keeps up, but more people want to retire and now it's September 30th and we have less HR and less OPM people to process those things. Holy cow.
It is a hot mess. Hot mess. So
Yeah.
now let's talk about those who are able to retire early,
Okay.
right? Maybe you've met your minimum retirement age, whatever that is for you based on your year of birth, and you have at least 10 years of service, 5 of those being at least in the federal government, right? Because you could have 5 years in the federal government and 5 years military service that you made a deposit for, whatever. As long as you have those 5 years vested in the federal service, then you can go out on an MRA plus 10 basis, right? And all of those normal retirement rules would still apply to you. The thing is, if you submit for the deferred resignation, you get an extra 7 months, right?
Right.
And so
Bonus.
that can postpone or avoid the penalty, right? So it can reduce the penalty because it's 5/12 of 1% for every month under age 62 for an employee, right? That amounts to about 5% per year that an employee will have a reduction
Mm-hmm.
for each year they're under age 62. So it could, if you're retiring 3 years early at 59, then you're going to have a 15% reduction to your pension. And so if you're not quite at your MRA, maybe you'll meet your MRA within this deferred resignation time, then take a sabbatical and then look at the numbers. Again, I don't know if that's going to be a good choice for you. And especially with being within just a week of having to make that decision,
I know.
this is where it gets icky. But here's the kicker
Yeah.
with that, right? If you do decide to take the deferred resignation and try and figure things out for that early retirement, then you can always take that back, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
take back the deferred resignation and choose not to go through with it. But if you
However,
don't choose, yes, however, if you don't choose to take the deferred resignation, you don't have another option to do
mm-hmm.
it again, right? And so you don't get to say, "Oh, wait, just kidding. I do want to participate." That
Right.
doesn't work. You can always rescind that decision, but you cannot reapply or, resubmit an acceptance for that designation or the resignation. And so if you want some time to think about it, submit the resignation because you can always take it back.
Okay. Now, I'm going to take this to an extreme. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And you tell me what's wrong with this situation. I'm a federal employee. I'm not going to retire anytime soon. I want to keep going with the federal government, but I need a vacation. So I'm going to do the resignation, take a month of vacation, and then just say, just kidding, I'm coming back. What's wrong with that?
I totally see people doing that.
100%. You know what's going to happen. It will certainly happen. What's wrong?
You
What's the
bet.
danger there, though?
Why not work the system? But here's the deal.
Yeah.
Even if you continue working, your position isn't guaranteed. And it says that in the email,
Yeah.
right? And so I would say, still think about what will happen if and when. Still plan for that worst case scenario, right? Because if your position isn't guaranteed, then you're still going to be SOL with the government. However, you can still apply for other departments or agencies, assuming that the hiring freeze is lifted
Mm-hmm.
or that said position.
Mm-hmm.
And if you stay, though, you might also get what's called a discontinued service. And here was what we were talking about at the beginning of the video. This is the
Okay.
bonus, the caveat, because if you go out on a discontinued service retirement, and obviously you have to be let go for other things than being delinquent or, sucking at your job. Like you can't do anything wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of thing. And so if you didn't do anything wrong and they're simply just saying we're going to have a reorganization or we're going to have a transfer of function or whatever, then and they're just getting rid of your position, then they loosen the age and service year requirements to be able to retire.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so with that, instead of having to meet MRA with 30, 62 with 20, then you can go out any age with 25 years, any age with 25 years or age 50 with 20 years and have full retirement without any penalty, without any, or with continued benefits, right? Because what we were talking about before is that early retirement. Well, there's two options if you take an early retirement. You can take your pension immediately and you can keep all your benefits and you can have a penalty reduction to your pension.
Right.
Or you can postpone your
Mm-hmm.
pension, which also postpones the benefits, right? So if you are that age 59 and you decide to wait to pick up your pension until age 62, then you have 3 years where you're not receiving your FEGLI or your FEHB. And you won't get a special retirement supplement either because it's not an immediate
Right.
unreduced pension, right? With the discontinued service retirement, you'll still get your special retirement supplement. You'll still get all your benefits as long as you meet those lessened age and service year requirements. So there may be a benefit to saying, no thanks, government, I'll just wait to receive my pink slip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that will look like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that a discontinued service will even be, because they also have to provide a reasonable offer, and you can't deny a reasonable offer.
Right.
So if they come back and say, hey, Jane Doe, we've got this offer for you to, go ahead and travel another 5 miles, that's reasonable, especially if maybe it gives you another grade level or a step level increase, right? That's a reasonable offer. Is it reasonable for that person? I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah, it is.
another decision.
So this is,
But
go
the
ahead.
the thing is, here's the deal. I know I was talking to a person earlier who also said though that they have somebody who was ready to retire, but she just decided to wait because of the COVID rules, brought her home, and she had a more relaxed environment to work in.
Sure.
This might be the straw that breaks the camel's back for those types of people,
Right.
right? To where they're like, okay, never mind. I'm done with the, clowns, whatever, right? I want to just leave federal service. I'm ready to retire. I want to go. Here's my paperwork,
Right.
right? And that's all well and good. I think that's kind of the whole point regarding this. I mean, obviously, I think there's other reasons too, but I think one of the main ones is to those people who stayed on when they were able to go back to work or when they were able to continue work at their home can now say, okay, let me go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I almost see this as a let's make a deal type thing where they say, okay, I'm going to give you this deal. You can take it or not take it because the next thing may be better, but it may be worse. So which do you want to do? So federal employees say, okay, I'll take it. They take it and they're done. But others will say, you know what? I'm not going to take it. I'm going to hold out. And they may come back with, well, we're going to get rid of your position. So you're forced to basically a layoff, right? You're forced to go. But here's the package. And they may give you a better package than what you just turned down. But again, it may be worse than that. I saw a video of Elon Musk before the elections. He said, we're going to reduce the size of government. And don't worry, because the people, if we get rid of the Department of whatever, then we're going to give you 2 years of pay to just go find another job, to relax and go find another job.
I wish I had that opportunity.
Right? No kidding. Now, will it be 2 years? I doubt that, but you never know. But so, well, I mean, it's almost we're going to give this to you.
It's not. It's 7 months. It's 8 months, right? Because they're saying
is 7 months, right?
Here's the deal, right? And I don't know if there will be another one. We don't know, right? But with this one, they do say that you can go out and look for another position, right? They're not saying that, and that and it's in the
take the time to go look for other work.
Yes, that is in the FAQs that was sent out from the OPM memo, or from the OPM director memo, that said that, if you're able to go and apply for another position in the government, go for it. And maybe you apply with an exempted type of department. I don't know. Right? But that is an option. That is an option. And so if you know that, okay, my agency, like those IRS employees that are pulling everybody into a meeting, right? They know that it's very possible for their agency to be eliminated.
Right.
Well, it's always good to have a backup plan.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So you might want to look for other work. And that's the other thing. Like when I talked about that story where the gal had moved from Texas to Florida. Maybe she just looks for a position in her area so that way she can actually return to work
Right.
and continue working to build up the time that she needs to be able to leave the federal government with all of her benefits and whatnot, right? So I think there's more flexibility than people realize with this. And obviously, everybody's just scared right now
Yep.
because who gets a
Yep.
pink slip from the government? It's not every day,
Right.
right?
That rarely happens. So what I want to do, kind of in wrapping up, is I want to give a big hug to everyone, a big virtual hug, because before I started doing what I do now, I used to work for different companies. I've been laid off 4.5 times from companies.
Wow.
That's a lot, right? I mean, you get into it and then, oh, you're laid off. I used to work for Intel, and Intel laid me off 1 year to the day that they hired me. And
Wow.
they laid off the whole team. It's just, we're not doing this project anymore. You're done. And a guy came up on our team and was like, and he was just bawling. He said, I've got a child and a wife to take care of, and I don't know what to do. And having been laid off like 3 times before that, I'm like, dude, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And that's what I want. Big virtual hug for everyone. I know this is a big emotional thing.
Yes.
Almost always. I mean, really, like a huge percentage of times when things like this happen, you'll land in a better spot. If it does happen to you, things get better almost always. So don't think you're going to be you're the statistic and it's not going to be, no, anticipate that it's going to be better. Anticipate that you're going to make a good decision. So what you need to do really is make sure that you're making a good decision for you. Have a financial advisor, take a look at your options and say, okay, this really is the best thing for you, and you can look at the numbers and actually you make the decision yourself. They'll just show you the numbers, right? And then you can go and you're going to land on your feet. If it's somewhere else, it's going to be better. So please don't worry. Please just go forward, act, and make things happen, and just have faith that it's going to be better than it is than what you're feeling right now. Those are kind of my parting words for this whole thing. What about you, Cassie?
1,000%. It doesn't feel good for anybody to receive a notice that they're not going to be able to continue the work that they enjoy doing, whether it's because it's from home or whether it's because they just enjoy their role in what they've been doing for so long. There's many different reasons why you are in the position that you are in, but you're totally right. It reminds me of the time when I got a notice from my employer when my kids were about 3 years old. I had the twins, and at the time, I wasn't making enough money to support actually paying for daycare. So we kind of had a handshake agreement, my boss and I, that I was going to work for, like part time. I would just take off a couple hours earlier so that way I could go home and switch roles with my husband at the time, right? And that way the kids were able to be home and I could still work majority with the company I was with. Well, after a few years, I got a notice that said, hey, we need 3 full-time employees, doing this. And I couldn't be part-time. And I literally had to think about, okay, well, what does this look like for me? And I would not be where I'm at today if I hadn't said, okay, thanks, I need to go somewhere else. And my kids went through my wallet. I was able to contact this person, and that started my journey in the independent world of insurance, rather than being a captive insurance representative. And so it just kind of stumbled into, this federal benefits guru kind of thing, if you would. And, I received that notice 11 years ago in 1 month to the day. Like, I'm not even kidding. So it's going to be okay. And it's those kind of moments where it redefines what is your purpose in this world? What is your purpose in this life? Follow your passion. Do something that you want to do rather than what you have to do. It really, I think, for me, transitioned me into being the person I even am today because of that one pivotal moment in my career, And so um, I just invite you guys to show up to the Fed pilot programs. Reach out to Cassie at fedoptions.co if you need to, and we'll redirect you if you need to the Fed pilot program, or somebody who can really help you just understand where you are and where you need to go. That's the best that that we can have. But again, I agree. These things in life, your character's built in chaos, right? And so it's a redefining moment for people. Don't let it put you in this negative mindset, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right. In the end, you can either act or be acted upon. Go act and make it happen for you, whatever it is. Good. Thanks for joining us. We're going to come out with some more updates, so keep watching, and we'll tell you some stories of things that we've heard that may give you ideas of what to do, but keep up to date on it. Go make sure that you know what your numbers are. Go make a great decision and go land on your feet, whether it's the same place or somewhere else. Make it great. Thanks, everyone. Take care.